The movie kicks off in a meticulously crafted world known as Titanium. This state, established by refugees from Earth millennia ago, is characterized by its prosperity and orderly governance. Life in Titanium is governed by a rigid set of rules and regulations, and those who fail to comply face severe consequences from the ruling authorities. The narrative centers on Christy, a prominent character who becomes disillusioned with her life, particularly her arranged marriage, over which she has no control. In a bold move, she abandons her husband and home, only to find herself imprisoned for this act of defiance. Her punishment is severe: exile to a mysterious and undisclosed location. Christy is not alone in this fate. She is accompanied by more than 9 other prisoners, each with varying levels of knowledge and experience about the world beyond their confinement. As they are ejected from their prison, a pivotal moment occurs. An officer blindfolds one prisoner, Irvin, and instructs him to proceed forward. Irvin's quick thinking saves him from a potentially lethal trap, an electrified net. The officer, realizing the danger, orders the deactivation of the net before returning, leaving the prisoners to fend for themselves with only a trunk filled with essential supplies. This place of exile is mockingly named Happiness Island. A tense dynamic emerges among the group. Irvin suggests that they introduce themselves, but Haust, who refers to himself as Polar Wolf, interjects with a more pressing concern: understanding the reasons behind each prisoner's exile. As they share their stories, a mysterious entity emerges from the earth, startling everyone except for Haust and Irvin, who seem familiar with such occurrences. Haust warns of the dangers they face, highlighting the dangerous nature of their environment. Disagreements arise when it comes to sharing the resources from the trunk. Irvin proposes an equitable distribution, but Haust insists on a team-based approach. After some contention, they decide to split up, with Haust leading the majority while Christy allies with Irvin. In a strategic exchange, Irvin negotiates to take the trunk in return for a portion of their food supplies. Their journey to Happiness Island is filled with uncertainty and myth. Some believe the island to be a mere legend, while others are convinced of its existence. The plot thickens as Irvin and Christy embark on their challenging journey, separating from the rest of the prisoners. Christy harbors some resentment towards Irvin for not including Maria, who seemed the most terrified among the prisoners, in their group. As they progress, they encounter Matthias's girlfriend, who expresses a desire to join them. However, their interaction is abruptly disrupted by an unseen assailant who opens fire. Irvin and Christy manage to find cover, and Irvin advises Matthias's girlfriend to return to Haust, emphasizing that he already has a partner. Meanwhile, at the Ministry of Justice, officers report to the president of the planet, expressing regret over their failure to eliminate Irvin. This failure is attributed to several unforeseen complications. The president, dissatisfied with the outcome, orders them to undertake the mission again by any means necessary, to which they agree. During a brief respite in their journey, Irvin and Christy encounter a bizarre, scientifically modified animal that emerges from the ground and attacks Christy. Displaying quick thinking and bravery, Irvin instructs Christy to remain still and then leaps into action. The duo manage to overpower the creature, with Christy delivering a crucial blow by cutting its base with a knife. Irvin ingeniously repurposes parts of the defeated animal into a makeshift hand weapon. Christy, grateful and concerned, tends to the wounds Irvin sustained in the struggle. As they resume their journey towards the island, Irvin's alertness once again proves vital. He spots swamp-like substances emerging from the ground and instructs Christy to lie on her back to avoid them. Coincidentally, Haust's group, who had been following them, arrives at the same location. Haust realizes the danger of the swamp too late, as it already begins to surround them. In a tense moment, the terrifying creature they had first encountered upon their release from prison reemerges, stunning everyone with fear. Haust quickly orders everyone to lie flat on the ground, allowing the swamp to pass just over their heads. In a sudden turn of events, one of the prisoners inadvertently touches part of the swamp, triggering a reaction that pulls her and another prisoner into the ground. Haust urgently instructs them to use a knife to sever the swamp's branch-like appendage. They manage to follow his directions, narrowly escaping the creature's clutches. Soon, a moment of high tension unfolds when one of the prisoners, unable to bear the stress of their dangerous situation, panics and attempts to flee. Haust urgently calls out to him to stop and remain still, knowing the dangers of the swamp. Tragically, the swamp reacts swiftly to the prisoner's movements, engulfing him completely. This harrowing incident leaves the group shaken, and they find themselves grappling with the harsh reality of their environment. In the aftermath, a heated exchange occurs between Christie and Irvin. Christie angrily confronts Irvin for not warning House's team about the dangers they faced. Irvin, in response, sharply reminds her that survival in this treacherous landscape requires strict adherence to his guidance, urging her to continue on their path. Christie realizes that these mechanisms serve as a grim alternative to traditional forms of punishment, eliminating the need for officials to directly intervene in meting out death penalties. Meanwhile, at the Ministry of Justice, the president inquires about the status of the situation. The officers, with evident disappointment, admit that the issue remains unresolved. Surprisingly, the president responds calmly to this news. He issues a new directive, ordering the officers to bring Irvin back safely and alive, even if it means venturing into the swamp themselves. As the evening sets in, Irvin and Christie find a moment of respite by a fire. Christie, curious about Irvin's past and his remarkable survival skills, questions him about his life before imprisonment. Irvin reveals that he was a mathematician and offers to share more about his past, but only if Christie answers a question of his. However, as he poses his question, he realizes that Christie has fallen asleep. Demonstrating his softer side, he gently adjusts her position for comfort before stepping away. Christie awakens later to find herself alone, only to notice a new swarm of swamps approaching. In a dramatic turn, Irvin reappears from a distance, urgently instructing her to take shelter in the trunk. They narrowly escape the swamp's onslaught by hiding inside the trunk, waiting tensely until the danger passes. Once the coast is clear, they emerge and set off once again, continuing their daunting journey and facing the relentless challenges of their treacherous world. House announces a plan for a brief rest, suggesting a 3-hour nap once they reach the beach. However, this plan is disrupted when Matthias's girlfriend, spotting Irvin and Christie in the distance, impulsively decides to pursue them. In a rash move, she cuts the rope tying her to her team and dashes off. House, infuriated, chases after her, threatening her life. But his pursuit takes a dangerous turn when he becomes trapped in the treacherous beach mud, slowly sinking. Desperate for help, House reaches out to his team, but they hesitate, unwilling to risk their own safety. After a tense moment, the oldest member of the team reluctantly extends a helping hand to House. Meanwhile, Irvin and Christie share a quiet moment around a fire, where Irvin offers Christie a crab to eat. In this serene setting, he confides in her, revealing the true reason behind his exile. He explains that the government, unable to legally impose the death penalty in their state, sent him to this dangerous place as an indirect way to eliminate him. Their conversation is abruptly interrupted by a scream. Christie, recognizing the voice as Maria's, rushes towards the source of the sound. Tragically, they discover that Maria has been killed by 2 unknown assailants, whom the other team mistakenly thought were former counselor Irvin. Shocked by this turn of events, Christie expresses her horror and disgust at the cruel and inhumane nature of their surroundings. In a startling revelation, Irvin admits that he was the one who proposed the punishment system they are now enduring. Christie, outraged, confronts Irvin, expressing her wish that he had been killed by the electric net earlier. In a moment of despair, Irvin seems to accept her condemnation and begins to act erratically, calling out for the monstrous creature to take his life. In this intense storyline, the plot thickens following the death of Maria. 3 remaining prisoners, including Matthias and his girlfriend, find themselves in a dire situation, uncertain of their next move. Their situation takes a dramatic turn when House, along with the person who saved him from the mud, confronts them. House seizes Matthias's girlfriend, who frantically tries to justify her actions by claiming she was under orders to follow and kill Irvin. Matthias supports her claim by revealing a compass tracker on her body. In a twist of fate, she attempts to flee but is caught and killed by a deadly sargasso fungus, leaving Matthias and the others to witness her death helplessly. Tragedy strikes again when Matthias meets his end while trying to open a bag. This leaves only 3 prisoners, including House, to navigate the dangerous terrain. In a distant encounter, one of the older prisoners calls out to Irvin. Despite Irvin's warnings, Christie stops to engage, suspecting it might be a trap. Unfortunately, Irvin's caution proves valid, as he is struck by an unknown object and falls to the ground. Meanwhile, government agents are actively searching for Irvin. House, now having captured Irvin, seeks refuge in the Charon. During this tense moment, one of the government agents encounters House while looking for Matthias. House strikes a deal, offering to hand over Irvin in exchange for a gun. However, when House returns to retrieve Irvin, he discovers that Irvin has escaped. In a desperate attempt to defend himself, Haust shoots at the government officers with the gun, only to find it empty. He is shot in the leg during the confrontation. The situation escalates when the government officer encounters Christie and the older prisoner, taking Christie hostage and demanding that Irvin reveal himself. Witnessing this from his hiding spot, Irvin coordinates with the remaining prisoner Joe, who has obtained a gun from a government officer killed by the swamp. Irvin instructs Job to shoot the officer at the right moment as he surrenders. As Irvin emerges and gives himself up, the officer releases Christie. But in an unexpected turn, Haust reappears, striking the officer from behind, leading to his demise. In the climactic moments of the movie, the story reaches a pivotal point. Irvin, along with Job and Christie, makes the difficult decision to leave Haust behind at the refuge of Chiron, as he is unable to continue their journey. They eventually arrive at the beach, where they catch a glimpse of the elusive island they have been desperately seeking. Immediately, Irvin spots the island's ability to float and quickly devises a plan to use them for their escape. Amidst these developments, Christie remains in a deep slumber, having been sedated earlier by a sleeping pill administered by one of the officers. The trio manages to board one of the nearby floating islands and set sail, aided by the wind. During their journey, a heartbreaking scene unfolds as they notice Job voluntarily submerging himself in the water. Suffering and choosing death over the continuous struggle for survival, Job submits to the sea's creatures, leaving Irvin and Christie in a state of shocked silence. The tension escalates when a government jet, initially sent to retrieve them, unexpectedly crashes into the water. Christie, confused by the sudden turn of events, looks to Irvin for an explanation. With a mixture of relief and triumph, Irvin reveals that his code has successfully disrupted the system, effectively outsmarting their pursuers. This revelation sparks a moment of joy and celebration between them, as they realize they have overcome the formidable obstacles set by the system. Upon reaching dry land, Irvin uses his code to unlock a secret wall, reserved only for the president's access. Inside, they discover a jet, representing their chance at freedom. Overwhelmed with emotion and gratitude, Christie expresses her love for Irvin and leans in for a kiss, which he reciprocates. In this moment of mutual affection and understanding, they board the jet together, leaving Titanium behind in search of the freedom they have longed for. The movie concludes with Irvin and Christie's departure, symbolizing not just their physical escape from Titanium, but also their emotional journey from despair to hope and from isolation to love.